We'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. Thank you for being here on Monday, February 13th at 6:30 for a special meeting. Miss Evans, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Councilmember Jeremiah Barron.
Here.
Councilmember Denise Rogers.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Nolan.
Here.
Councilmember Amy Lance. Here. Vice Mayor Barry Thomas.
Here.
Mayor John Hughes.
Here.
You're all here.
Thank you, Miss Evans. Everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may all be seated. Item 5A, discuss and possible action on applications received from Pierce Coleman, PLLC, and Sims Mackin for town attorney. Mr. Udall.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, and as you see in your packet, we have received two applications in from two separate attorney firms. Both of these attorney firms are well known in the state and highly regarded. So we've been fortunate in our recruitment efforts to be able to get these two firms to apply. At hand now is what does the council want to do in terms of a process to onboard one of these firms. And so I'll just turn it back to the council to see what process you would like for the staff to follow through. I would mention, although very similar in terms of experience working with small local governments, one of the big differences is that the Pierce Coleman proposal is open to a flat fee as well as an hourly rate, and the Sims Mackin did put in there an hourly rate. Now, I don't know if they'd be open to a flat rate or not. That might be something the council wants the staff to investigate and bring back to you at a later time. And my hope is also that you would want to interview each of the firms.
All right. Council have any? Yes, Mr. Nolan.
Yeah, I could make a motion to go ahead and bring these two firms in for an interview.
All right. Motion made by Mr. Nolan, seconded by Mr. Thomas. Council have any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll open it up to the audience. Audience have any discussion on it? All right. Seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Okay, Councilmember Barron.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Nolan.
Here. Yes.
Councilmember Lance. Yes. Vice Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Mayor Hughes.
Yes.
Okay, that passed.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Evans. Item 5B, discuss and possible action on the process for filling a vacant seat on the town council. Mr. Udall.
Yes, Mayor and Council, we placed before you some material that reflects the process that was followed the very last time that there was a vacancy on the council, and the council was in the position that you find yourselves in now in needing to find a replacement council member. So it's a starting place. I don't know if that's where you want to end in terms of a process, but it's something for you to look at, and so we wanted to make that available to you and provide it to you as well.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Udall. Council have any questions on this?
I do.
Yes, Ms. Rogers.
Perhaps I missed it, but I wasn't sure why we had time to get in for an election, like a day or two. we could have said, yes, we want an election. The way I understood it was there wasn't much more than that at that moment to do. So I just, if I could have my memory refreshed on why that didn't happen.
I may have to defer the answer to that to either Kay or Beth.
Okay.
Mayor, Council Member Rogers, the law for replacement of council members that have a vacancy don't allow for an election. And I think all of you in email have notified you twice that the email is sitting there with a text. The state statute says if it's more than 30 days before the regular election deadline for nomination petitions, which in this case it is, because the deadline for the first nomination petition would be April of 2024. All elections on even years in August and November. So in this case, it's more than 30 days out. What the statute says is that you need to appoint, and at the next election, then there'll be an election for the remainder of the term, 2 years. Mark McBrady's term was till 2026. This would mean that you'd have an election for the remainder of his term in August of 2024. And that's what the statute says, and that's what the town code says. It does not allow you to have an election. It doesn't authorize you to.
All right.
Thank you. I wasn't clear on what was happening there. I've been a little
Yeah.
busy.
All right. Ms. Lance.
Well, we just had an election in November. Can we not just take the second place person and be done with it? I don't know where.
If you decide that that's how your appointment process would be, you can decide to do that. And decide that that's what the appointment process is. You have to get a majority vote to do that.
I didn't catch that last part.
Have to have a majority vote in order.
You'd have to have a majority vote to do that, to make that the appointment process. A majority vote as far as the council.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, I got one.
All right. Mr. Barnes.
So if that's the process, then why does the Yavapai County allow several days per year to make for special elections throughout the year, what in election year or not? You have 180 days, so I understand the point of being in an election year, yada, yada, yada. But if that was the case, then the county wouldn't have the options for an election in an off-election year. Am I missing something?
The county doesn't, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you weren't done. Go ahead.
No, my last part was, am I missing something on that? And if you're, yeah, go ahead and respond, and then I'll respond to your response.
Okay. So, it is the state that sets up, excuse me,
Did the county not
the state
did the county not sit there and send the town a response sometime in January asking if there was any need for an election for the August?
it wouldn't, okay. The 4 dates for special elections are for more things than just election of candidates. It's for any election that the town would need to have. Yes,
As a
you
death
could
of a
have
council member?
elections. If you're gonna let me finish this is fine. If you wanna make up the law, go ahead.
I'm not making up the law. I'm just asking a question,
Yes,
trying to understand it.
okay, but I'm trying to answer your question. So there are lots of things that could go to special elections. There are cities that have charters that allow them to choose their vacancies on council. The end of the statute 9235, which I sent you, says this does not apply to charter cities. So, the county is not the maker of these special election dates. It is actually that the state, about 10 years ago, decided that there were only 4 dates on which you could have elections in towns and cities. They set this up. That's what it's for. But the specific statute that applies in this case says that in this particular circumstance, you must appoint, and then the election is held for the last 2 years. Setting up different dates for special elections doesn't address the issue of how the state authorizes you to do this.
So, if we take the process that was done before, and you have all these applicants come in and put their name in the hat, and none of them are chosen, you're telling me that we can't do nothing for a year, a little over a year, despite the fact that there's a potential election coming in November, as long as the town gets the paperwork in and is willing to pay the money, that a special election can't take place for that? Because if I'm looking at all these...
Statute,
Go ahead.
the statute does not provide for you to do a special election. It provides for you to appoint up through the next regularly scheduled election. That's what Item 9-235 says. At this point, we don't know that the council's not going to be able to appoint
I'm going to stop you right there.
a council person.
Let's play back a year ago and not drag on the BS that happened, because I don't see my name on any one of these areas, and yet here I sit today. So it's very apparent that even a year ago the council couldn't agree on a person sitting up here.
Well, at
Here we
the
go
end of
again.
this...
Hold on, I'm not done. I'm not done. And here we go again with the same process, and with an unfortunate circumstances, thinking that we're gonna drag this out and play the same game again. This isn't fair to us. This isn't fair to the public. We just went through this. I could go along with you all day long if we just didn't go through this and I wasn't sitting here. But I'm sitting here because
I'm telling you
not
what
agree.
the law is. I'm telling you what the law is. If you do something, if the council votes to do something different, you are taking risks that the election could be overturned and lots of other things. I'm not going to give a laundry list to an opponent so they can sue you on this. So I'm not going to give the bad charge of doing this in a public meeting. I'm telling you what the law authorizes.
I'm done for the moment.
All right, anybody else? Okay, we're going to open it up to the audience. Come on up, Mr. Finn.
Matthew Finn, Dewey Humboldt. What Kay says is correct. We passed the deadline. Where I disagree with her is in ARS 16204. Look at the definition. It says that the town, it doesn't specify a charter, town or city can fill a special election vacancy on the first Tuesday of August. So I'm not sure why that's a confusion, but it's right there in the statutes. It is up to the state, and it's right there. But we did pass it, so now we have to figure out how to get past that. Because after 2020, elections were supposed to be in August, not November. So now we do have a problem. Thank you.
All right. Yes, come on up.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Ron Thibodeau, Dewey. So I'm pretty sure I heard Ms. Bigelow say that we could just use the second place finisher, whether as an interim or to fulfill the full till 2026. So if that's doable, rather than have an empty chair for 6 months or a year and a half, why don't we just make a motion, perhaps, and see if we can carry that through tonight so that we don't have an empty chair for the foreseeable future. Thank you.
Come on up.
And just know that requires a majority of the council to decide that that's the way it would be handled. So a majority of the council has to decide that their appointment process will go back to the November election.
Ashley Preston, Dewey Humboldt. So we had an empty seat, a year or so ago when Glenn Blomgren left. Quite a few people put in their applications, me included. We were scheduled for interviews, and then the town was shut down for 3 months. No explanation why we didn't have Zoom meetings or follow through with the appointment of that seat. I never got a phone call back after that. It was just kind of wiped clean, we forget about that, and shut down the town for 3 months. So is that the same sort of process that we're talking about now, going through again to appoint the other seat? Because if that's the case, it's ridiculous. And if you haven't noticed, people are kind of catching on to the ridiculousness of shutting down the town and doing what a few of you want on the council. It needs to be done as a whole, and it needs to be done now. We can't have a 3-3 vote on anything moving forward. It needs to be taken care of.
Come on up, Ms. Brett.
Sue Brandt, Dewey Humboldt. Yes, I think we need to, it's only fair to go back to November and appoint the second highest vote getter. Thank you.
All right. Yes, Ms. Collins.
If I heard correctly, the town manager said that there was a supplement given to council members about the process that was followed previously with respect to filling the council vacancy. We really need to have an open government and that should have been in a packet for everybody in the whole town to see. It should be online. We need to see what that is so we know what's going on from a citizen's point of view. And I want to make all council members aware that our town code in 10.15E and 30.018A says that votes required for approval of ordinances resolutions require a majority of vote of all members present at the meeting where the voting is occurring. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Clough.
Lee Clough, Dewey Humboldt, Mary Hugh, and council, I'd like to also say that I did not receive what you guys are talking about, and I think that's very unfair because we don't know what process you're talking about. However, if I remember the process correctly, there was, people applied, the town was closed down. Ed Dickey was not allowed to have meetings on Zoom because that was not on the process like when Mayor Nolan did it. And then I think it was in June that Councilmember Thomas made a motion to put it on an election for last November, and that is how Mr. Barron got voted in. So why we didn't do that when we had the opportunity was last November a regular election. The only thing I voted for was the proposition and a council person. So I don't think that was a regular election, but maybe I'm wrong. And I do know that the attorney we have right now does not always interpret the law right. If you remember, Councilmember Mark McBrady corrected her at a meeting a while back. And I am very disappointed. So I hope, Mayor, here you get onto it, that when people are talking, whether it be your council or whether it be audience, that you do interrupt the attorney and make her stop because it is our time, not hers, and you're the one that's running this meeting, not her. And she's been trying to run over you for the last year, and it's really getting out of control. And I just wanted to make sure, and I watched Mr. Councilmember Thomas agree with me that yes, he did put that in. So why there's a problem now? So since we want to play games, how about we do what other people have suggested and just go ahead and vote whoever the second person was in November, and let's move on and get our council moving and going. Thank you very much.
All right. Who's next? Anybody else? All right. Yes, Ms. Lance.
Well, since the audience didn't get to see it, I'm going to kind of give my interpretation of this process. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Alaskan elections this past year. This is what that is like. So I'm not for this.
Oh, ranked choice.
How do we get a copy?
Mr. Udall,
Not have it.
can you get copies of that for them tomorrow?
Sure, you bet. Now, remember, this is what the council elected to do at the last time there was an opening.
No,
You don't have to.
No, it's not. Mr. Barron, we called a special election. That's what Ms. Puff was just
I was
saying.
informed this was what it was, so this is why I reported that. Miss Evans informed me of that, so that's why you have those copies. Again, it's just a starting place. You don't have to do that. I'm not even recommending that you do that. It's just a place to start the conversation. So if you don't want to do that, don't do that.
Yeah, I'm not for it. That's what I just said. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Council, yes, Mr. Barron.
Yeah, so could everybody just get an explanation to hopefully ease the room of why this wasn't made available for them tonight to look at with the rest of their packet? Despite the fact that it was potentially the last time, but still, it's...
The request just came in from me late. In fact, I noticed it yesterday. In fact, it came from a comment that I remembered previous council member Brooks reading to the council. And I thought, well, that seems like a fair process. That must have came from the last time we did it. And so then I asked Beth to go ahead and just give that to the council. That's where that came from.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So, council. Do we want to discuss how we're going to do this, or what?
That's what you're doing.
We are. We're waiting for more information. I mean, or we're moving on. Okay. See you later.
Hold on. Well, here goes nothing. I'm going to make a motion to fill the vacant seat by the runner-up of the last November election. To run through at least until the 2024 election, where then hopefully we'll have a more permanent seat for the position. But we got to have somebody now.
I'll second.
Got to have somebody now.
Councilmember Dunn, will you please name that person?
It doesn't matter.
I don't think it matters. It's.
It matters.
Is that legal advice?
Hold on. Can we look that up?
How does it matter if it's a second person or not? And how is that legal advice to sit there and name the candidate?
Because it's hard to have a vote of the council without people knowing who they are voting for to fill that
Voting
seat.
for the runner-up of the election, the second person with the most high.
Really? They're going to sneak it in. It's Lynn Collins. In case anybody doesn't know in the room.
Anything in? It's called the runner-up of the last election. And if you're here, are you here for legal advice or your opinion? Because I don't think that's legal advice. Therefore, you need to
That is certainly legal advice.
where your opinions are coming into play, Kay. This is obnoxious. All they hear from you, and it needs to stop.
People's choice.
Talking.
People's choice.
You're here for legal advice, not for your opinion. If it's not legal advice, then we don't need to hear your opinion.
Right.
Thank you.
Amen.
Run the meeting, John.
I'm just waiting for Barron's to be done, and we will.
Thank you, thank you, Beth.
There we go.
So, people's spelling, where's, can you push it up a little
It's
bit?
right there.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see it. So Jeremiah, then Lynn Collins, then, so it would be Lynn Collins, if you want to include that in your.
So this was the people's choice.
Yep. Yes.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yes.
Was. Not is, was.
So far out from that election.
Closest thing we got. Things change.
Yeah.
Things do change.
Let's change. Recall. Please tell.
So you want me to stop the attorney from talking, but it's okay for all you guys to talk too. So where do you want me to draw the line? I'm just asking. You know, you guys get mad at me for not stopping Kay, but yet you guys can talk all the time. And I'm just trying to be cordial here, but can we all be on the same page?
That's fair.
Right.
Can you guys please?
I'm just asking, right?
Yep.
Fair's fair, okay?
That's right.
All right.
Absolutely right.
So I've been patient, trying to get along with everybody here. We're trying to do this thing, and then this comes in, and then I get in trouble if I do something wrong. But I'm also gonna say that for the last 3 elections that were done, the double standards can't work all the time. So the last 3 elections, someone's always said we need to go with the second candidate going up, okay? And that was always shut down. And the candidate that's going to be second is the one that was voicing it. We can't do it that way. It doesn't need to go that way. So you can check the records, and it's been stated that this process doesn't work unless it's in favor of the candidate that was speaking for it. So that's just the way it's been. But we're going to do a vote. If there's any more comments on the vote, we're going to move forward and go from there. You've already spoke, sir, and you've already spoke, and...
But what you said didn't make sense to us. Nick, I don't know what you just said.
It's okay. That's all right. Go ahead, Ms.
I
Lance.
would like to know when that it was brought up that we should go by the electorate's second choice, because I've never seen this before, never heard it before. It's never been this close to an election before. So specifically, what are we talking about here?
Well, all of the other recalls, it was always said that, well, since we can't appoint someone, let's go to the second vote.
Are we
And
talking recalls or elections? 'Cause it's
they were
different.
always in the election. So that's what I'm saying. So why is it good for one but not good for another, or why is it good for one process and not another process?
I'd have to see that because I've never ever had this situation in the 7 years I've been on here.
Okay. All right. So there's a motion on the table.
Play it out.
So we'll carry the motion out and we'll go from there. Roll call vote, Ms. Evans.
Councilmember Barron.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Nolan.
No.
Councilmember Lance.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thomas.
No.
Mayor Hughes.
And that's a no.
So three minutes to recall.
There you go.
All right. So now we still have discussion. Let's do the process of how we are going to do a process of appointing with this guideline or a different guideline, however you guys would like to do it.
Okay. My solution of doing it is to send it back out to the electors. Whether it's how they feel now or how they feel 2 months ago. And we'll see, because this is not our seat to choose. This is their seat to choose. Not for us. And we all know exactly what's going to happen. To sit there and just what happened right now. Exactly what happened right now is going to be the same process. You had all these names, and nobody could agree on these names. Drag it out, drag it out, drag it out. So the same way we all got elected is the same way that Mark McBrady's seat needs to be filled by the people, which is their seat. And that needs to happen at the soonest election, which is November. Do another special election, pay the dang money, and let them pick their seat. And then we all get to deal with it. That's my position.
Okay. Make a motion out of it.
I'll make a motion. I make a motion to send the vacant seat back out to the people for the soonest election, which is in November, for them to pick the seat and not for the sitting council members to fill it.
I'll second.
Okay, motion been made by Mr. Barnes, second by Mrs. Lance. Mr. Thomas, you got a question?
I want to know from Kay one more time when the next legal election can be held.
It would be August of 2024.
August 2024.
It's the primary election. You could also have it in November of 2024, which is the general election.
Our rules. That's legal.
All right.
I'd be happy to do it next week if we could, but that's not legal.
So, you have a choice, Mr. Udall. Or Kay. We have a motion to go to the next election in November of 2023. If that is carried out, it's breaking the law. If it isn't, then we're going forward with it. So we need a definite answer so that the audience and everybody here knows what our legal aspect is. Plain and simple. The motion is to have an election in November.
23.
Is it August or November?
It's November now.
November. Yes. Of 2023.
The statute and the town code do not authorize you to have an election to fill this vacancy. If you act outside the protection of that authority, you act without the coverage of the law, and it may undo the election. It's up to you. If you act without the authority, there are consequences, and that's the truth. You've got to decide whether you're going to take that chance.
Okay. So, I'm going to make a motion that we go through the appointment process for a 30-day period, or we can follow this guideline, however people want to do it. But I would say we have a 30-day period and then go through that appointment process. If that doesn't work, then at that time, that they can go to an election, but it's not, I won't vote for it because I'm not going to be held liable for the town's lawsuit. Plain and simple. I'm just telling you, it's against the law, and I'm not going to vote for it. I think with this council and the audience and the citizens at home, that we can actually sit up here and do our job and pick a person. There is nothing to say that we cannot do that as a group. If the group wants to get together and stand up at the podium and say that we need to unite, this is your opportunity. We all need to unite. Let's get behind a person that's mutual to everybody, and let's get behind that person and back them. I have no problem of doing that. And it's the truth. But if you want to keep the town divided and keep fighting it, we'll never get through this process. But we need everybody's support to do this job, okay? And I think with the votes from all of these people together, we should be able to pick a person out of the six of us that will be good for this council. We are elected by the citizens, okay? And with all of us together, we should be able to do that. That's what every other council does in the state. So there should be no difference between us. Prescott appointed a person, Prescott Valley appointed a person. Why do we have to be different? It's the law. We're doing what the law states. That's what I say. So I think we ought to do an appointment for 30 days, follow the guideline what we did last time. This time, we finished it with a deadline and get it done. The last time there was no deadline and it never got done. So let's get it done and go from there.
That's a long motion, but I'll second it.
Well, I'll narrow it down. I just wanted to say, my motion is to do an appointment process with a 30-day application deadline and then the interviews the following week after the deadlines and go from there. Is that fair? Is that kind of what this one was?
I understand the
just a little bit
motion.
longer so people can put their applications in.
Second.
Okay. Okay. So there was a motion made by myself, seconded by Mr. Thomas. We got questions from Ms. Lance, and then Barons, and then Ms. Rogers.
Okay, so I liked your speech. It was wonderful. However, we just tried that, and you guys poo-pooed it. Because I went with, in my opinion, the best way to go is from the last election, which was in November, and today is February. November, December, January, January. So maybe 3 months, and everybody's mind would have changed by then? I don't think so. However, you guys decided that you don't want the person that the people chose. So let that be said.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Barons.
Yeah, I'll withdraw my motion and we'll play the game.
No problem. Ms. Rogers.
So I wanted to know, this looks like it was ranked choice voting.
Yes,
Is
just like
that
last
what
time.
we're voting for? To go for ranked choice voting?
No,
Yes.
no, that wasn't the mayor's
This
motion.
little packet of
He said
stuff?
this packet. Said this packet.
You can read the motion back, but I understood the motion to be that we do an application process for 30 days, and that the very next council meeting, we interview the applicants and let it go from there, is what he
Not
said.
all of this.
Yes. Is that,
Yes,
you
that
understand now?
answers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Okay. So, how about the audience for this one? All right, yes, Mr. Finn.
In an attempt to calm the villagers down, the deadline was passed, so she's right, it can't go to November, at least not legally.
Right.
So please, understand that is the case because it has passed.
Wasn't the deadline for August? The new deadline for November?
February 2nd, yes.
That was for August, but the new deadline for the...
The way the statute
is August,
reads,
May. or April, May, right?
For some reason, Kay doesn't bring it up, but in her favor, what she's saying, if you look at 16204, it does say that elections after 2020 and on, it specifies the first Tuesday in August. So the deadline passed, and November is off the table based on these statutes. I'm upset that we missed February 2nd's deadline. That's why I emailed it, and I hope at some point Ms. Bigelow is held accountable for that. But that's a whole different fight. I'm saying what I'm saying right now because I want everybody to realize that it is sticking your neck out to go for November, because that's not what was there. Whether or not it was intentional or not, the February 2nd was lost by the town's attorney. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Yes, Ms. Collins.
Well, you don't have a written process for this. We're going to just make it up as we go along, or what? Because people need to know what the process is going to be. Apparently, there's something that the council has that we have not seen, have maybe never seen. So that's secret. Nobody in this room knows what that is. So that's not a good start for this process. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Udall.
I think you threw I think you threw out the window whatever I had put in front of you there and made your own process the way that we all heard it.
So will you put that out so that everybody kind of knows what we're doing? We're getting the applications out, and then when we come back in 30 days, we're going to do the interviews the following week. It's pretty cut and dry, but that's what it is. I'm not trying to change the wheel. Just yes, Ms. Lance.
So we'll be doing it like we used to do it, and we do the interviews on a study session, and then vote the following week.
Yes.
Because that went out the window too. So just was wondering what we're doing now.
Yes, come on up, sir. No.
So, Ron Thibodeau, dude, and just for the record, I didn't use my full 3 minutes the first time, so. And the audience was only responding to Mr. Thomas's out-of-line comment, so I guess you maybe should have looked to your right as you were saying some of those comments. However, in this situation, maybe I'm just ignorant of some of the processes here, but will this process all be done openly for the town to see, or will there be any executive sessions involved in this decision making?
It has always been in the presence of the community, but I don't know.
Well, I think we'd like to know.
I would say yes because it's all about the community.
Thank you. So we'll take that as your word on that then. Thank you.
And besides, I don't make the executive sessions here. That is not up to me. Just so you're clear of that. Mr. Chisholm.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jason Chisholm, Town of Dewey, Humboldt. According to our newly elected Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes, on his website, the election dates are as follows. 2022 election. Primary election was in August. General election was in November. 2024, there's room for a special election in March of 2024, a primary in August of 2024, and a general in November of 2024. There is no room anywhere in there for an odd year anywhere in the state for any election. That goes across the state of Arizona. That is our Secretary of State calling the shots on that. So if you guys can't come up with something, this seat will remain vacant until no sooner than March of 2024. If I'm doing the math, that is 13 months from now. That's a long time for a 3-3 whatever, if that be the case. So I like John's, the mayor's idea, but that's the easiest fix to this problem without dragging it on and dragging it on. Why don't we just drag our feet behind us? Thank you.
Now, the last one took 11 months, so 13 months sounds about right.
All right, anybody else? Okay. Ms. Evans, roll call vote, please.
You state the motion.
You want me to just rephrase it so we're good? Okay. Motion for an appointment process of 30 days, followed by the study session to interview, followed by a special meeting per regular meeting we got to vote on. Study session we can't vote on. And then at that meeting we vote for the council member in an open session. You going to second that?
Yep.
Whoever seconded it.
I re-second that.
Okay.
Councilmember Barron,
No.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Nolan,
Yes.
Councilmember Lance,
No.
Vice Mayor Thomas,
Yes.
and Mayor Hughes.
Yes.
That passed 4-2.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Evans. All right. Item C. Vote to recess into executive session pursuant to ARS 38-43103A1 and 38-431.03A4 to discuss and choose the finalists for the permanent town manager from the remaining candidates, Daniel Fields, Matthew Mears, and Sharon Wills. Ms. Letts.
Is it my understanding that we can't go into executive session because we don't have the information back yet?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
So, that being said, we are going to move on to item D. Well, we can't do that one either because we haven't got the background checks yet. So we're going to move on to item 6. Discuss, can't we do that one either? So, here we go. Item 7. Considering additional special sessions. Seeing none, item 8 is to adjourn the meeting.